Hey guys, I'm Anna and this is Unruly. We're here today with New York Times reporter Alisha Haridasani Gupta, who covers news, culture, and formally women's health and health inequities. She's reported on everything from how IUD pain is treated within the medical system, the shape of Barbie's feet, something I am deeply interested in, and very relevant to our discussion today, cycle syncing. Alisha, welcome. It's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I think just to start us out, so for everyone listening and watching, would you mind defining cycle syncing as it's most commonly being used by like sports teams and people on the internet?
Okay. So there are 4 phases to your menstrual cycle.
Okay.
Right? There is the follicular, there's the ovulation, there's luteal, there's menstruation. And there are different hormones at play in each phase of that cycle. The theory behind cycle syncing is that you plan your life around that natural rhythm of 28 days, those 4 different phases of your cycle. Mm-hmm. There are theories that, in certain parts of the cycle, you are more social, you are more outgoing, you are more creative, you are more energetic, and so therefore you can schedule certain things in that phase of your cycle. There are other parts of the cycle, like, particularly just before you start menstruating, where you crave rest and you crave certain foods and you don't want to be as social as usual. And so the idea is that you just plan your life based on this biological rhythm that we have. Of course, we'll get into this later, but the science behind it, murky, but it is trendy, and I think it's interesting how the kind of conversation that it has started.
When did you first really start noticing it as like a big trend? Like, do we have a point of origin we can kind of trace it back to?
Okay, so there is a person who wrote the book Cycle Syncing. She wrote the guidebook on this years ago. Alisha Haridasani, I think her name is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't think it reached the mainstream at the point when she published that book. It came into the mainstream, I would say 2 or 3 years ago when I started seeing it on social. At that point, I scrolled past. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. But it caught my attention when workout apps like Nike and Alo started releasing specific workouts for different phases of the cycle. Like luteal phase stretch or follicular phase HIIT workout, And I am on these workout apps, and to me that felt like it had fully crossed into the mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are using those apps, right?
Yeah.
And when I started digging, I realized that a lot of this stuff was being used by professional athletes already, particularly in the U.S. soccer players.
Yes.
That's
when I first started hearing about it.
Yeah, these amazing, they had these winning streaks, and they were saying that the secret was they follow their cycle and they do cycle syncing. And I just thought, okay, now that I'm seeing it everywhere, it's time to report on it. And I mean, the Google searches for it really peaked in 2023, but I was just looking yesterday. It hasn't gone down, It's still trending.
Like trending up, or is it consistent?
It's sort of just consistent. It hasn't gone up. Like, it hasn't gone beyond the peak. And the TikTok hashtag for it, it's got like almost 1 billion views.
Wow.
So it's not phasing out anytime. It's not,
Yeah. You mentioned you saw on the application, on the workout applications. Did you have any trouble getting it approved? Like to actually like write an article about it? Or you kind of just like went for it?
I think because I was covering women's health space at that time, the minute you say this is getting almost 1 billion views on TikTok, it's like, enough for our editors to say, what is that?
Yeah.
And let's look into it, It's not something I had to do a hard sell on. It did take a lot of edits because of the science around it. The New York Times has specific standards. We have an ethics team. We have so many editors that look at that. And if they're sitting there thinking, this is not enough, that was the hard part. But then I think that's part of the story.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
The
lack of science is part of the story.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think I want to take a moment to kind of give you your flowers on an incredible piece you just published, which was around pain management standards for IUD insertions, those types of things. And I think that is another example of something that was ignored and not under researched within the medical sphere for so long. But then after we were loud about it for so long, people took notice.
Yeah.
Do you think this is following a similar path?
I don't think that is going to follow that same path as the IUD pain management, because there isn't sort of a medical institution that's going to come out and endorse this, or that's going to have, there's not going to be a study of 1,500 women and like all of them follow the same exact pattern and this is what we found. That's impossible. But what I want to touch on is how the reason that I think cycle thinking as a concept is so sticky and so attractive is because without even knowing the term, without even understanding what actually the different phases are, I think women do this instinctively.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I personally prefer to do yoga just before my period. Like I want to stretch. I don't really want to be running for half an hour on the treadmill, I don't want to be lifting weights. I just kind of want to stretch. I want to gobble down a pizza. I don't want to socialize. And so that's what cycle syncing tells us isn't anything so out of the ordinary and so radical, right? So it feels true. It feels instinctively correct. And the other interesting thing that I find about this is that it's a really great way for women to learn and understand their cycles. You have to fundamentally understand that there are 4 phases and what's happening in each phase. And given that sex ed and education about your period is so abysmal, it's fascinating that women are out there saying, hey, I'm in my luteal phase. I don't want to do this meeting. Power to them, right? Like it is such an interesting moment in the conversation around menstruation, which for eons and eons has been so taboo. It has been so stigmatized. It's seen as like this dirty secret. I grew up in a culture where when I was on my period, I was not allowed into holy spaces and I was not allowed to water plants because I was seen as toxic, right? In the 1920s, there was a scientist who did an entire study on whether flowers that are handled by menstruating women will die faster than handled by other people. This was published in scientific journals.
That's crazy.
And he found, yes, indeed, flowers that are handled by menstruating women do die faster because there are toxins on the skin of menstruating women. And this toxic substance was labeled menotoxins.
Oh my God. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So for the longest time, having your period was seen as dangerous, as scary, as a risk to others, right? Because of menotoxins, we thought that periods are sort of this scary thing. And, we think of it as this quirk of history, like, 1920s, like the people didn't know anything. But when did we actually get the first ad for period products with red liquid instead of blue? 2017.
Oh, boy.
Like not even 10 years ago, right?
That's so funny because I can picture the blue liquid.
Yeah. Like it's so disgusting that we don't even want to see ads for the product that is supposed to address that problem, And so, yes, those theories are like wafting around culture for ages and ages, but it remains till this day. And I think it's fascinating that we're having a conversation about different phases of the cycle and how we feel and what we want to do in those phases. That's quite unprecedented.
Well, I think even just thinking about, like, I know a lot of women in my life are like subscribing to this concept of cycle syncing. I think I have a couple coworkers who like will say, "Oh, I'm in my luteal phase this week," and I'm like, and I know that it's potentially negative. That's the only thing I can associate with it right now with my current knowledge base. But one thing that maybe I see as a barrier, and you tell me if you agree with this, is that not every person who has a period, not all periods behave the same.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. And I can even say I have endometriosis. And one thing that I used to be on those 28-week birth control packets, and now I'm on a 21-week. They just have me skip that placebo week because they want the hormones to continue, hopefully deterring pain that comes with the condition. But I can't totally do it, as I am right now. But I mean, I guess that doesn't mean that nobody can,
So that's the big thing about it, right? The big caveat that scientists who do want to research this, and this is always the caveat that comes with any research into women's health, but it's that menstruation it's tricky. It's different. You and I have different cycles. Sometimes my cycle is different this month than last month, right? It's very inconsistent. It just ebbs and flows how it wishes. And then also, I think the part that science around this really struggles to get at is like, what are we measuring? Are we measuring that you're going to get personal best on the treadmill?
Yeah.
Are we measuring muscle mass? Are we measuring, like, how do you measure energy levels and creativity? How do you measure that? It's really, really tough to pin down a study that can encompass what cycle syncing says.
Yeah.
So yes, it might not apply to you because you're on a certain specific birth control. It might not apply to me because I have shorter periods, longer periods, whatever it is. And that's kind of why there isn't really science around it. And also, like, for me, I'm a parent, I have a baby, I want to get 20 minutes of workout in. Does it really matter to me that this one study of 12 professional athletes found that it helped them with their sprint? I mean, no, I'm just going to do my workout whenever I get a spare moment, whether I'm in my luteal phase or follicular phase, right? I think that's the other, it's like, is it applicable to everyone?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. I guess kind of to follow on your reporting, how studied is it? Shaking your head no.
Yeah. It's kind of tough. Okay, so the thing with women's health, right? It's everyone focuses on reproduction a lot. A lot of the studies focus on reproduction and cancers, right? Related cancers. But then it's like, okay, there are some studies that find that the menstrual cycle affects your certain activity in the brain, and that's neurology, right? And then there's cardiology, and then there's no holistic look at women's health, right? Women's health, the term, refers to these very specific things, and then cardiology, oncology, and all of that, it's sort of different. And that's why it's like there could be a lot of studies on neurology and cycle and menstruation, but it falls into some different bucket.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So it's like really hard to look at all of the literature on this. And again, there isn't much, right?
You're saying, like, obviously there's women's health, which, again, focusing on a lot of reproduction type things, oncology, cardiology. But do we study cardiology from a woman's perspective? Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Okay, great.
To answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is fantastic for us, right? Like, look at today, if we look at something like menopause, right? A lot of people are coming to realize that menopause has an effect on your whole entire body, right? With the definition of menopause and the reason that it falls under gynecology is that, your ovaries have run out of eggs, right? And so you're not producing the certain hormones that you need or that you were producing before. But then that means that your brain changes, your heart changes, your muscles change, your metabolism changes. Are they studied within gynecology? No, they're not.
Yeah.
Right? And so it becomes this push and pull. I remember reporting on menopause and speaking to a gynecologist who's written a book on this, who's really been an advocate for sort of better and more research into menopause. And she goes, she has patients who come to her who went to their cardiologist and their cardiologist said, don't get on hormone therapy. It's not good for you. Whereas, the gynecologist said, well, I think you need to be on hormone therapy. And like, there's this idea that like another doctor can dismiss the diagnosis of a gynecologist. Why do they think that? Like, why is that? There's this culture of like separating parts of your body when actually it's one cohesive thing. There's this lack of understanding of how your hormones and your reproductive organs and your menstruation cycle and lack of it affect the rest of your body, and it's seen as like the least urgent part of your body, right? Like, okay, let's not increase your risk of cancer and stroke and whatever, but you're sitting there every day sweating,
being miserable.
miserable.
Yeah. I mean, I
right?
remember my
Yeah.
mom just being absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And it was around the time where they were like,
Yeah.
no HRT, no hormone
Yeah.
replacement therapy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I imagine what life would have been if it would have been very different. They're trying to, instead of putting women's health at the top and having that inform everything
Yes.
else,
Yeah.
it's just something that's kind of on the side.
Yeah.
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 Damn, that sucks.
I know. I know.
Sorry to like reduce it to such a statement,
but it does.
Yeah.
It does suck.
I mean, and I think too, like, I mentioned I have endometriosis, and I mean, it took so long to get diagnosed with that, and even to be officially diagnosed, you can't be officially diagnosed unless you have invasive surgery, which is what I had a year ago to have it removed. And I mean, it took, I think the average time, and I'm probably going to not say this exactly right, is almost like 5 to 7 years to get properly diagnosed with endometriosis. It took me about 5 years, I think. But the amount of just different tests I went through, like having like an upper GI where they like inject like the dye into your veins, and then at one point they were like, oh, it's just acid reflux. And I mean, it's kind of, I have never felt so unseen and I don't even want to say ignored, because it wasn't that I was being ignored. I just don't think I was being, I don't think that my discomfort mattered, you know? Like, it's not even about, I mean, if I had something extremely serious, for example, like a aggressive form of cancer or something, like, I think that's very different from just trying to help women be comfortable. And I don't think cycle syncing fixes everything. And we don't even know if it fixes anything right now. But like, would it be enough if it even just helped some people? I don't know.
Would it be enough that women feel comfortable? I would say yes, because in my reporting, anytime I've spoken to a woman about their health concerns, I have never once heard someone say they went to the doctor, they found a solution. Never once, right? And that same McKinsey report, they found that women spend 25% more of their lives in poor health than men do. And these are like sort of incremental things that add up in your life, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm going to get cancer and something's going to, you know. It is that bleeding heavy is a burden in your everyday life. Someone got fired from their job because they bled too heavily and onto an office chair. Okay?
That's awful.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just about comfort. It's like day-to-day life, being able to do day-to-day things.
I literally did that on a Delta flight in these jeans.
How did you get the stains up? How did you get the stains up? But honestly, endometriosis, like you said, affects 10% of women, right? Iron deficiency affects a third of women. It's never diagnosed. Barely diagnosed.
Is that what anemia is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like becomes a problem when you become pregnant, but researchers are always saying like we need to address it before you become pregnant. Because then your body is sort of in overdrive when you are pregnant. It's not good to just test it when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't test it. UTIs, we don't understand. We don't understand why some women bleed heavier than other women, why some girls start their period so young compared to other girls. And these are all incremental things that make your life uncomfortable that are not taken seriously enough. And it again, I want to bring up that conversation we started earlier on the IUD pain, right? There were enough women who made a loud noise and like complained and put their foot down about the pain that they experienced when they were getting their IUDs, that the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology said, okay, we hear you. We know there's no studies on effective ways to manage your pain. There isn't, actually. It's sort of all mixed. But we're going to tell doctors to take your pain seriously anyway. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
For something that is seen as an ordinary, like quick in and out, not surgery, but procedure.
Yeah.
We're going to take your pain seriously.
Which is back to obviously not solving anything, but it's just, it's that baseline level of comfort being finally being prioritized, even in this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think we'll keep trending that way?
I do see hope in the fact that women talking about it and being loud about it can change things. I want to give you a really classic example of this. So there are a bunch of women in Emmanuel College who published the iconic book, Our Bodies, Our Selves, in 1970. This book is radical. They demanded that the FDA regulate period products. They really scrutinize period products. And it is because of them that you have warnings on period products for toxic shock syndrome. For like, don't leave it in there for more than 8 hours, whatever it is. Because they pressured the government. And so I do think that we have a history of women refusing to accept discomfort, fatalities, lack of research. They don't want that anymore. More so now. And so there is hope there in that it could lead to change. I don't know if like institutionally people will respond as in the way that ACOG did for IUDs. But I think, just speaking about it, finding the right doctors, I think it even pressures researchers to do that work, right? The conversation does change things.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the potential repercussions of people making life changes around unsubstantiated science. And this being like a somewhat of an online trend that I know is happening right now. And again, is something that's more prevalent in professional sports, which I actually think is a little bit comforting. Because they pay those people so much money to an extent, not necessarily women. Whole other topic. But hopefully they would be wanting to invest in things that they really believed in. What do you think that this reveals about like the time we're in?
The fact that women are making all these decisions unsubstantiated by science, changing their life around this idea. I think we've been doing that for centuries. We've been giving birth before obstetrics was a thing, right? We've been having periods before we had science. So, Again, I'm not saying let's all chuck science out the window, but it comes back to this idea that some things are instinctive. And again, I keep coming back to this idea of like, at least we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's better than making those decisions in private and like not, like it being a bigger danger to yourself because you haven't told anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point about how, as you just said, being loud about these things are impactful.
Yeah.
What feels different about the way we talk about our bodies and our period in the workplace today?
Oh, I feel like there was a movement a few years ago of like an act of microfeminism is not hiding your tampon when you go to the toilet at the workplace, like not shoving it up your sleeve. And as I mentioned to you, a few years ago, someone got fired for bleeding onto their chair. So that's a few years ago. I think today, well, not today, even let's say last year, maybe 2 years ago, the EEOC did acknowledge that sometimes women need to stay home because of hairy periods, miscarriage.
Yeah.
Like who knows why you're having a really painful period. So that acknowledgement is huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are countries around the world that have actually made period products free everywhere. I think that's Scotland. Have allowed for people to take time off because of periods and menstruation and menstruation pain and whatever, anything associated with it. So that's huge.
That is huge. Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, for me, I come from a culture, again, I'm reminding you, where like I could not even like water plants. I think that's huge.
Yeah. And I think too, honestly, the context you just put that in is really important because, of course, we think about like, I'm probably in like my mom's generation, always felt like talking about hormones and periods and things would lead people to not taking you seriously, would cause people not to take you seriously. And I think thinking about that here in a very like westernized place and how we felt like that was kind of oppressive, but even then comparing it to how you grew up and how, and it's kind of, I don't want to say like, oh, appreciate what you've got. Like, that's not what I mean at all. I think it's just kind of the being aware of the different, like, the different contexts in which people live.
Yeah.
And how that can really affect what we see as progress.
Oh my gosh, I have so many things to say to that. Okay, so let's narrow it down to two things. So yes, there was a time when feminism was, let's be like the men, right? Let's play it at their game. We know we can do it.
And that's what medical people were doing when
Yes.
they said
Women are smaller, just simply smaller men.
Yeah.
And so we like suited up and we like hit our periods, like never, all the ads were like, you can use this and no one will ever know. You can wear white and like jump around and no one will
jump around.
like no one will know. And like, let's hide this inconvenience of our lives. Let's never, ever talk about it in a way that is debilitating, right? That was feminism. That was considered like, this is how we achieve progress by hiding the female parts of ourselves, right? And I think we're getting to a point today where feminism is like exactly the opposite of that. It's like, no, embracing everything that makes a woman. Like girl math. Let's talk about girl math. Like, okay, cool. I'm just going to wash my hair because of girl math. Like, like all these random ludicrous things that are like, substantiated by girl math. Which,
my blonde highlights will be extended by the purple shampoo I used.
Yes.
Thereby, that is girl math
Yes.
of extending the length of time I have between dye jobs.
Yeah, and like I do girl math of like when I should wash my hair.
Yes,
it takes so much time. And like,
and then you're like, okay, what do I have this week?
Yes.
Do I need to have fresh hair for this?
Yeah.
Literally.
Exactly.
Aligned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we're embracing that, there's no such thing as boy math, Yeah. We're embracing that. And we're embracing this idea of, I don't want, this is going to sound like a humble brag, but this is not what I mean.
Go for it.
I just met with the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern.
Oh,
who she led by being emotional, by being compassionate, by being kind. She believes that that's the way that we should be leading as politicians. She's embracing a side of herself that people would argue is feminine, right? And she was like, well, I led a country and I did great. Power to her, And I actually, the second thing I wanted to bring up is I want to bring up this quote because I really, really love it. It's by Dr. Inga Winkler. She's a human rights lawyer.
Okay.
And she co-authored one of the seminal books on menstruation of recent times. It's called the Palgrave Handbook of Critical Menstrual Studies. She says, menstruation unites the personal and the political, the intimate and the public, the physiological and the sociocultural. It either facilitates or impedes the realization of a whole range of human rights. Which I think comes to what we're saying, right?
Yeah.
What is progress? Is it embracing the side of yourself or is it hiding it?
Yeah. Do you know what's funny is for this season of Unruly, I really wanted to focus on how, like, I think women's conversations get labeled again as, like, being specifically for women and how I'm like, we don't need to, like, qualify it. But also I kind of love what you're saying, too, if I'm interpreting correctly, like, the girl math. Let's have girl math. Let's make something for us.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
maybe that is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should just stop saying should for everything.
Yeah.
And
just stop apologizing.
And just be,
Yeah. I want women's health. It comes back to what we were saying earlier. I want women's health to encompass everything.
Yeah.
I want it to mean so much more than it means right now.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be relegated to like our reproductive organs.
Yeah. And then maybe it's better too for even just the women's conversations.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just we are having them in the context of women's experiences. Same with how we want cardiology to be in the context of a woman's, her health and her life, as opposed to just something separate from women entirely.
Yeah, as if we don't get heart attacks.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, let's embrace it.
Yeah.
I would say that we should embrace it,
Yeah.
and it should just be expansive, and it should be holistic. It should be like everything.
And then really quickly, one thing we've been asking every guest with the name of our show is, what's the most unruly thing you've done this week?
Unruly thing I've done this week. Oh my goodness. Well, with a baby, it's really hard to do anything unruly. Like you just have like your whole life revolves around nap schedules. Unruly. Okay, I did not wash my hair before this. I didn't do the girl math right. I didn't do it right. I didn't plan it right.
I'm like, why do you think my hair's in a bun?
Yeah. It's like slicked down. Yeah, I didn't do it. That's the most unruly it's going to get this week. I don't know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
I really enjoyed the conversation, and I can't wait to see what other articles you come up with soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're doing a segment that we call the Unruly Tapes, Stories We Can't Unhear. And it's a segment where we get a story from someone with an unruly point of view. So with your background, having previously reported on women's health, can you give me an example or two of the most, I don't know, outlandish assumptions you've heard people make about women's health?
Okay, we're going to go classic. There was a time in which people believed that female hysteria, depression, fatigue, was because their uteruses were wandering around their body, that their uteruses just like took a stroll. And the kicker is that the solution to get the uterus back in place is a vaginal massage.
Okay.
So essentially they invented vibrators.
The Victorians?
I'm not sure. I don't even know what time. I don't even know what time period this is. But this is like, it's hilarious because women are like, yeah, sure. I'll go for a massage.
Mine's wandering around.
Yeah, like my uterus is taking an unusually long stroll, and I need a solution.
We need to get her attention to get back.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I mean, okay, this dark part is that women were like put into asylum centers, and you know, it was terrible.
Yeah.
But the outcome is that we now have vibrators.
Now I'm gonna look up how much money the vibrator industry makes.
Oh, so much.
A year now.
So much.
I'm
But
sure
okay, big grain of salt. I don't know when it was when it happened. I just remember hearing this and thinking, okay, A, crazy that it was assumed that the uterus wanders, but B, great. Mm-hmm. Great.
I mean, if our mind can wander, then maybe my uterus is wandering too.
Yeah. It is very poetic.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This was absolutely fascinating, and I don't know, I do really hope people kind of took something away from this.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.